I call this order of City of Siloam Springs Planning Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Song.
Here.
Montgomery.
Here.
McKinney. Smith.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting May the 11th, 2021. You've all been issued a copy of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes as published? Hearing no corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes as published. Roll call.
Montgomery.
Yes.
Sally. McKinney. Smith.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Minutes are approved. First item on today's agenda is Significant Development Permit SD 21-03, Ben Rhodes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. I'm Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Before you is a significant development permit occurring at 22,000 block of Highway 16. As you recall, the Planning Commission reviewed this permit and recommended for its approval on April 13th, 2021. When that permit made it to the City Board for review, the applicant elected to make major design changes to the project, which entails rearranging the position of the buildings in relation to the drainage pond. This is in response to the recently approved project that was to the north of this area that was for the Rock Hill Foods project. So the plans have only just been received or been resubmitted for review, so staff has not had an opportunity to fully review these and make a recommendation to you. Therefore, we're requesting that this permit be tabled 1 month to July 13th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. We're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of Ben? Is there any questions from the audience on Significant Development 21-03? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to table significant development 2103. Second.
I have a motion and a second to table Significant Development 21-03. Roll call, please.
McKinney.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Montgomery.
Yes.
Motion to table 21-03 is approved. This will come back before the Planning Commission, or will it go straight to the board?
You're tabling it to the July 13th Planning Commission meeting.
It'll come back before this commission on July the 13th. Next item on our agenda is Significant Development Permit SD 21-05. Mr. Rhodes.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair and Commission. For your next review item, you're looking at a new structure proposed at Camp Siloam. This is at the 3600 South Lincoln Street. The request is to build a 5,800 square foot bunkhouse dormitory for the students using the camp. And here is the proposed site plan. This is positioned to the southeast of the two existing bunkhouses on either side. The facility will be somewhat closer to the center of the camp. The outlined boxes on either side represent potential future buildings as indicated on the site plan. It should be noted that the camp did receive a significant development permit a little more than a year ago for a larger bunkhouse that was to be closer to the dining hall area. This building was never constructed, and the permit is now considered expired at this point. So here you just see the planned area overlay, which just shows you how it's positioned in relation to other existing facilities on the site. I will point out these two pavilions will have to be relocated because the footing of that building will kind of protrude out into the closer into the center of the camp, as I said. Here is the elevations. Your typical building that has the front porch around the perimeter. And your site view at the building site. So staff is recommending approval of the project with one needed condition related to a utility easement needed for one of the relocated sewer lines that will feed this facility. This is needed prior to construction. And with that, we are available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? Commissioners, do you have questions of Mr. Rhodes? With no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve SD 21-05 under the condition that the applicant shall provide a utility easement via separate instrument for the relocation of the public sewer line prior to building permit issuance.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McKinney,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Montgomery,
This, the motion is approved. This significant development will go before the board on July the 6th. Next item on the agenda is significant development permit SD 21-07. Mr. Rhodes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission again. Next for your consideration is a significant development permit occurring at 4290 Highway 412 East. The proposal is to construct 15 RV pads for an RV park that's in the open field that's to the south of TJ's Pizza. In addition to the pads, the site will use an existing services and office building that has already been permitted for construction. So your review today is strictly limited to the RV pads and the entry drives and parking aisles. Here you see the full site plan, which includes 2 access points that tie into the existing driveways, both owned by the applicant, as located there and there. And also the service building that I mentioned earlier is what I'm circling there. The visitors will both be either dependent or independent vehicles, meaning that they will either have their own services in the vehicle or be reliant on the bathroom facilities that will be built on or are being built on site. So access will likely be made one way, so ingressing vehicles will come in from one direction and egressing will come out the other to avoid some head-on meetings, if they're coming too close on both sides. Here we see the site plan, just kind of a little bit of a more close-up view showing the area under consideration with the driveway or drive aisle and an open green space, and then the pads, of course, being shown around those locations. And then here is the landscape plan. There's trees planted around the edge of the development. I will note that there are some revisions that are necessary, which is why staff added the condition on the landscaping plan, and that was because it came in later in the review process, so we just need a little bit more time to get that perfected and refined. And then here we see the plan as laid over on the overall environment, with that services building right there for your orientation on how that lays out on the site. And Finally, here is the site view looking to the north. The services building, which is also the pet grooming center, was located right there. As I checked, hope you see that. There's not an elevation view because what they're proposing doesn't have an elevation to it. It's really just the pads and the drive entry. And so staff is recommending approval with some needed conditions, and I'll cover those real quick. The applicant needs to file a related lot consolidation plat. The proposed RV park sits on 2 lots that are owned by the applicant. Without that lot consolidation, the drive aisle will bisect the required green space buffer. So the lot consolidation will eliminate that issue. This application has not yet been submitted to us for review, but we understand it's coming. Second condition is related to the need to address the final remaining drainage comments. Although the site impact is rather small, it's not 0. So there does need to be intention to either a on-site detention basin or a rain garden, which will slow the stormwater from exiting the site. This is needed also prior to construction. And lastly, the condition on the landscaping that I mentioned earlier. Staff is recommending approval with these conditions, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, hearing none. Commissioners, do you have questions? You folks are too easy tonight. With no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve SD 21-07 with the following conditions: that the applicant shall file the lot consolidation permit with the appropriate easements prior to construction, that the applicant shall address any drainage concerns to the satisfaction of the city, and that the applicant shall supply an approved landscape plan prior to construction.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Motion is approved. This will go before the board on July the 6th. Next item to come before the board is the one you're waiting on, preliminary plat development, PP 21-03.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission. We saved the best for last, right? Okay, so for your final regular development review item, you're looking at a preliminary plat development. This is occurring at the 300 to 500 block of Oak Crest Road. The proposal is to subdivide 20 acres into 58 single-family lots. That's in 2 phases, each being at or above 10,000 square feet. This is consistent with the established R1 zone, which is a larger lot single-family zoning. And as a reminder, the zoning of this property takes precedence over anything on the future land use map. So the zoning is the guide on this, nothing else. Here you see the site plan. This is nearly identical to an earlier approved project at the same site from 2005. That was called the Royal Oaks Edition. The staff report, I believe, for that was attached to your staff memo. So the primary change from the 2005 plan was an elimination of a street connection that was originally intended to come out here, as I'm showing on the map. So that was going to head out to the west. So this street connection can be removed now because, as you see on the plat note here, the 28 of the houses will contain residential home sprinklers. And this is kind of a new thing for Siloam Springs, but it is basically like a sprinkler system that's intended for residential use. Should there be a fire, they will go off automatically and will really help the emergency services tremendously with those in place. So this is allowed as another approved technique for fire safety when it's not practical to make those street connections as required by the code. I also wanted to point out a drainage easement, which is a 50-foot wide easement. This was built to allow the stormwater flow from the addition to the east to flow west. So that would be going this direction. And the second note there that I've shown on the slide, hopefully you guys can see that, is indicating that no fencing is to be permitted in the drainage channel so that it would not create a dam that would inadvertently cause water to flow back upstream because there's not a free flow through the property. So here is the site. This is looking to the north. If you look closely, you can kind of make out where those original streets were located from the Royal Oaks subdivision, which was partly under construction, and then they pulled out and stopped the project. So as part of this project, a developer will be responsible to make improvements to their frontage along Oakcrest Road, which includes a sidewalk as well as curb and gutter. And I also understand that the street department has made this street a priority to be worked on within the next 3 years. But however, staff doesn't have any plans of the actual street at this time. I also wanted to make you aware of some additional comments and questions that have been received since the packet went out last week. So we've received several questions relating to the size of the proposed houses, the construction time, drainage, and improvements on Oakcrest Road. Staff has already addressed these to the neighbor, and I've mentioned the drainage plan and street improvements. However, the house design cannot be regulated, but I would say that given the size of the proposed lots, I would estimate the houses to appear similar to what you find in Stonecrest subdivision or Heritage Ranch, because those are the similar size lot sizes as this development. We also received a few letters that I placed in front of your spots. These came in after the packet went out, so and the city board will be furnished with these same letters when they make their decision. Also, you should have received an email today, actually 2 emails that I sent out. One with some commentary regarding some slides and a video. That won't be displayed right now. That's why you got it in the email. So hopefully you were able to look at that and get some of that information. So with that, due to the extensive comments that we received regarding the drainage and traffic, I'd like to go ahead and give the floor over to Justin Bland, who's the city engineer, who will cover more of those topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin Bland, city engineer. So as Ben said, we have a little bit more information. Just wanted to kind of bring up specifically on the traffic and the drainage. So we did get a traffic count out there on Oakcrest in front of the site last week, and basically what we came up was approximately 500 cars per day. And this is over, a 24-hour period. So what's really probably more important on that is the peak hour, and that's kind of what we look at when you're looking at, traffic jams or issues from that point of view. So if you look at the morning peak hour, the lunch peak hour, and the afternoon peak hour, it looked like actually between about 4:30 and 5:30 in the afternoon was the worst case scenario. And we showed just, I think it was like 47 cars in that hour. So that's basically a car, just a little under 1 car per minute roughly through there. So relatively speaking, the traffic count's it's kind of on the lower end of what we would see around town. So when we say that we're going to double that with the potential 58 lots that are going to be added, because if you look at the numbers, you're talking maybe an extra 550 trips per day. Your peak hour is still going to be maybe 100 cars per hour. So you're talking maybe a couple cars per hour. A couple cars per minute. So when you think about it, on average, breaking it down per minute, it's not just a ton of traffic there. You still got to have a lot of spacing in between these cars. So I just kind of wanted to break that down. And then also when you look at 1,000 cars per day, there are the streets around town, similar geometries and widths that have that, such as Bellevue and Hyco and Kenwood Street. Ben kind of emphasized that this has been previously been on the public works schedule to be improved in the fiscal year 2024, so that we'll be moving ahead regardless of this project. Just kind of want to emphasize that the tech review procedure or process, the fire department does review this, and the fire marshal said that Oakcrest as it is adequate for their concerns through this area, so he didn't have any issues to bring up with this. I know that a lot of the concern is the steep ditches, and it is narrow, and it does drop off, especially at Don Hill. I did talk to the police department regarding accidents on the stretch, and they said that they don't have any reported accidents over the last couple of years between Don Hill and Hyco through here. So, I just wanted to mention that. And then, as Ben said, our requirements on this per the master street plan are twofold. One is that they need to improve their frontage per the master street plan cross section, and they will be doing that. And just a note, if you look at this section between Don Hill and Hyco, this is about 25% of that width. So it's going to be substantially better. It's not the 100%, but this is actually going to help their area out quite a bit. And then the second part of that is that they'll have to pay street fees per lot as they build the lot. And those funds will go to help the city improve other streets. So that's kind of with the traffic. And then if you look at the drainage, I wanted to bring up a picture here. So I think some of the pictures you're seeing are the flooding out there. It's bad. I completely understand everybody's concerns. But a lot of what's going on is that when this subdivision was built, the infrastructure is just really inadequate. And with it being out in the county, we really don't have a lot to say or regulate with this area. But just for reference, a lot of the pictures show this really broad swath of water through here. But there's really no depth to the ditch in this area, and that once it gets out of that ditch, it's just really flat. So it's just going to broaden out at that point. So it looks really bad, but the depth is fairly, I would say probably a foot or so. And for context, these three pipes here, I think there's 3 15-inch pipes. If you look at just kind of analyzing what those will carry before the road will get overtopped, I came up with about 20 CFS. In the the proposed street crossings in the subdivision, they're recommending 3 4-foot diameter pipes that would be 340 CFS. So what's being proposed is way better than what's there right now. So it's a bad situation, but I think what they're going to put downstream is going to accommodate it. And I wanted to point out that this is the preliminary plat. So the way our process works is that this is the perfect time for these things to be brought up. So as they go into the actual design, we can take these things into account. So it's good to know these things right now. And then once we get into the design, just want to kind of emphasize, the houses. The finished floors have to be 2 foot above the 100-year stormwater elevation. So along that ditch, there'll be a lot of analysis to make sure the houses will be adequately high enough and out of the water. And then, I know there's a comment about the bends in the ditch. We have calculations to basically give you extra freeboard as you go around the corner to make sure the water doesn't push up into the house. So these are things that will come down, in the future as we do the actual detailed design. And I think that's about it. Did you have anything else to add on that? All right, well, staff's available for any questions.
Okay, I'll open this up to the audience. Any comments from the audience? Please come forward, state your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Talk fast, yeah. Now, you can't bring up that Google on this, right?
Yeah, we tried to get them to let us do that.
Yeah, the Dropbox, you can't bring up those slides on this display?
we sent it to him. We've already sent it out.
Okay.
Name and address, please, sir.
Mark Miller, 22587 Westwood Drive, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I live in the middle of the subdivision. I'd like to read a little bit from my notes, but I'd also like to make a couple comments first, and that is some of that were just made. He even talked about it. Okay, so along this drainage ditch that they're going to put in, they're going to make sure there's 2 foot of freeboard so it doesn't flood their houses. So what does that mean? That means this subdivision is going to be built higher than this subdivision. So the runoff's going to come towards us. All right? Yes, some of it's going to go into the ditch, but if you're going to have to build these things up to make sure they don't flood, the water's going to the lowest point. It's going to back up. It's going to come to us. I talked about, yes, I don't think there's been a couple of accidents in the last year on Oak Crest Road. Mostly people running into the ditches. They talked about, yes, this water does spread out. However, it becomes a safety issue because you cannot cross a car across this water during a rainstorm. All right, so if somebody has an emergency problem, they can't get out. And there are people in the city community that are aware of this. I mean, I don't want to mention any names, but there are people that are around this board that know that this is an issue, and that they can't drive their car out. They wouldn't drive their car out. I've seen them drive their truck through. Okay, so there. Yeah, I mean, granted, this is a county issue. That county approved this. It's county land, but we just don't want to make it worse. We've already got a terrible problem. I hope that you viewed some of the videos there. I hope some other people will come up and speak about, it goes into their shops. The least little bit of backup, even just trash going down into these culverts if they're not clean, is going to significantly flood our neighborhood even more. I can read from my notes if you want. I don't know if it's 3 minutes or longer. Did you all get a chance to see I had a PowerPoint and they said I couldn't do that. It was too long. Did you, everyone?
I reviewed your PowerPoint and all of your notes.
I appreciate it.
And I'm sure the other commissioners have also.
Okay. And really, those are our 3 main concerns. Okay. Originally, yes, the map was from 2018. It's low-density housing. I didn't realize that this has actually already been zoned for more density. I'm asking a question. Was there a rezoning on this to go from low density to?
Ben, I don't think. Yeah, Ben, come up and see if you can answer that. I'll reserve your 25 seconds.
That's been zone R1 for probably 20 years, well before the comp plan.
All right. So R1
is the one with the houses, the larger houses on the lots. That's what's explained.
Okay. Are any of the developers here? I was curious, what is the size of the house? There were a couple other questions. What size house are they designing? What you talked about the size of the drains under the roads, the road count. Yes, right now you're only got.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry your 3 minutes are well past, and the 20
right.
seconds I reserved for you have passed.
Can I get somebody to yield time to me?
We have a lot of folks here that want to speak.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's pass it around. We are limiting, because of the amount of people, we are limiting to 3 minutes, please.
My name is Lori Lee. My
Wait just a moment. Wait till she comes up there, then
Go ahead.
he leaves.
You're taking my 3 minutes.
No, he's not got your 3 minutes yet.
3 minutes?
Go up, state your name and your address, and when
Lori
you get
Lee,
Okay.
22608 Westwood Drive. There you go, Mark.
Okay.
It's my 3 minutes.
Can she yield her 3 minutes?
She has yielded her 3 minutes. My counsel advises that will work. So There should be a clock in,
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, I see it right there. I really don't, like I said, if, I would invite the rest of the community to look at the look at the Dropbox, the Google Dropbox, and see the information provided. And like I said, all I'm asking, there are several safety concerns. We have a lot of young kids that live there. That road is only 18 feet wide at the corner of Dawn Hill and Oakcrest. You cannot pass two SUVs without one yielding. So you can imagine construction equipment or a number of different vehicles that would have an issue at that corner. We've already had people run off the road there. You can see one of the pictures shows damage where a truck pulling a loader tried to turn the corner and ran right over the sidewalk and the guardrails. The traffic count, you have 40, you talk about 47 an hour. You're going to over double the number of traffic operations on that road. We've all been promised this road is going to be improved for years. So all I'm asking is that we look into this a little, table it so we can look into it a little closer. I'd like to see something where the roads are improved. Some of this is done prior to this development, or at least some firm planning on it. I'm trying to think, there was another comment on that. And a good address on the drainage. I just, we all the houses around there are larger lots, larger homes, and we just don't want to be stuck in a swamp with everybody building up around us. I'll yield the rest of my time to whoever like it. Oh. Thank you.
someone else would like to come up and address the council, we would hope that it would be on a different point, but that's all right, we'll listen to you. And I'll give you a full 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name's Becky Bynum Avery. I reside at 22450 Oakview Road. I also own the 20 acres that's immediately west of the project. That is 14664 Dawn Hill Road. Similar concerns to what they said. The main thing is that I plan to put a single house on my land where they plan to put 58. So I think the major concern is the number and the small lots. And I think we do want a square footage minimum, or if we know that from the builders. Any idea? No? The other things, of course, the flowing water when it rains, we do have. I sent in a picture, or Wayne Meeks, my direct neighbor, sent in a picture and a video. When we have heavy rains, there is probably a 20-foot, I call it a creek, but that comes and flows through the back of the property and kind of heads west, just directly kind of dividing from the back of Oakview, where I think would be the back of Oakcrest and the current. It does flow through that area, and you can't walk through it or anything like that. I'm fine with the subdivision going in there. I think it does, help with development, but I think it needs to be further thought into bigger lots, make sure the drainage is good. Of course, the road concerns. There is a huge culvert that they mentioned earlier. I personally avoid that. I can't make that turn, especially if I'm driving a horse trailer or something like that. You have to use Dawn Hill because that turn's just impossible to make. You will go in the ditch. So if there are constructions, then it will be an issue with meeting. Particularly, of course, I have a farm, so hopefully we'll have some fencing done with that project. And then the noise and that kind of stuff. I think if they made the lots bigger, I think a lot of people would be more inclined to accept it, where it would be less density and less traffic. But overall, the main concern, as was stated before, the drainage, and just to make sure that we don't flood my property or the Oakcrest subdivision on either side. And I think if that was addressed a little bit more, that maybe we'd be happier. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Dr. Bynum.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to address this, hopefully with a different issue or Ma'am, you can come up first. I'll get you next, sir.
Hello. My name is Laura Mackey. I live at 22531 Westwood Drive. The image that is on the screen is my property that runs right along the easement here. Not only the easement gets flooded, but my whole side lot. My issue is and concern is the flooding. Not to mention, I work from home and the noise. I don't want to listen to that all day long. I am okay with this subdivision, but maybe limiting the amount of houses like they had previously addressed. But the flooding is the biggest concern coming from the opposite end, because this is already impassable like they had said. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Sir, you wanted to come up and speak? Hold on, let me go, come on up while I'm resetting this. Okay, state your name and address, please.
Gentlemen, Alan Schimmelhorn, I live at 693 Oak Crest Road.
Could you spell your name, please, for our clerk?
SCHEMAHORN.
And what was your address, sir?
693 Oak Crest Road.
Thank you.
I live 2 houses to the east of where this is going in. A lot of the issues that I was going to bring up have already been brought up. You know, the drainage, the road condition right now is not good. So whatever we're planning on doing to that road, I don't know if it'd be a good idea to do a lot of it beforehand, because obviously the construction is going to tear some of that up. They talked about the corner at Don Hill. It definitely, I'm sure you all have been there and drove around that corner. The one thing I have is, do you have a topo that shows what you're going to do with all those trees? Or does anybody know what they're going to do with all the trees on that property?
Justin, would you like to come up and address his concern if you have an answer?
I mean, I don't know for this for a fact, but I suspect a lot of them will be removed. I mean, I think that was kind of clear cut previously, and they'll have to be removed to build the lots.
So my main question is on the east side of that property, there's a lot of trees that create a barrier. So you're proposing that all those trees are coming down clear up to the property line that would be my neighbor just to the west of me. Is that correct?
May I suggest that the developer's actually here? That's really just going to be a design preference, so he may be able to address that better than I would. I'm really not sure.
Okay. All right, finish your questions, and then after you, I'll ask the developer to come up and possibly answer.
Okay, so a tangent to that I'm trying to get to is, if we're going to take down all the trees, I propose that the developer is going to do something to put up some sort of a barrier, because if you're going to allow 58 houses in there and they're going to be that small, which when you're talking about 2 houses per acre, that's pretty small. And so now we're going to create, like we said, a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, and we know what happens with, families and pets. I've already got a neighbor to the west of me that has 2 dogs that bark all night long. So I haven't complained too much about that yet. But anyway, I'm just trying to make that point of the trees is because I only live two houses away. So thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone else from the audience that wants to address this development with possibly a different view? Please come up and give us your name and address.
I'm Rebecca McConnell. I live at 22454 Oakview Road. And my concerns are similar, but I'm in a different location. My property backs up to the back of this piece of property. And I have seen water spread out 12 feet there in big rains. And it routinely flows through there, but that's it's not deep, but it's spread out. And if a lot of that gets covered in concrete, it's going to be worse. And then the traffic on the road, Those roads are not equipped. I mean, you barely have enough room to meet a wide vehicle or a vehicle with a trailer now. And I'm concerned about, are they gonna put up a barrier, a fence, to provide some privacy, possibly keep some of the dirt and dust down during the construction? Because that would just could be awful to be just covered up in dust and dirt all the time. And there are large trees at the back of my property. Some are right kind of on the line, some are on that property. I consider the large trees an asset, and I would not want the ones that are on the line, that are mine or partially mine, to be damaged during the construction and killed. So that's pretty much similar concerns, but kind of a different location.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here from the developer or representing the developer that can address some of these concerns? Please state your name and address.
My name's Jim Crine. I live at 23006 Lawless Road. I own the property. It's my property. I'm going to be the developer. I do not know if I will be the builder yet, but it's my understanding these are the least densely housed lots that have come online in over 10 years in Siloam. And so to me, I mean, we could try to put duplexes on there, but that's not our goal. We're trying to put the biggest lots on there that meet this zoning. And this is something that it's a new product for Siloam in the last 10 years, is my understanding. And as far as the trees, I want to be a good neighbor. As long as they're not in a utility area where we have to disturb them, we'll try to work around them as much as we can. You know, a lot of the inner trees will probably have to go. You know, it's like Vietnam out there. It's been neglected for like 15 years over there. Yeah, it's pretty neglected. And Ron, I think, is going to talk a little bit too, kind of talk about what Justin talked about, you know. And I think, if anything, we're going to help the neighbors to the east, because ours is going to move a lot more water than theirs is. You know, it's built to the standards of today instead of the standards of 30 years ago or 40 years ago. But I think this will be a nice project for Siloam, and we'll widen our part, and then if Siloam comes along and widens theirs, Oakcrest will be a nice street. So as far as that, do you have any questions for me?
Any idea what size house?
I don't know for sure. No, I don't. But I mean, the lots are going to be more expensive, so they're going to demand a higher house typically, just to get your value out of the lot. You know, the more square footage, the more you make, typically, is the builder's thinking. But I'm not going to lock myself into a square footage right now. We don't know yet, you know. And we probably actually won't start construction till fall or first of the year anyway, you know. So anything could happen between now and then. But we'll meet the zoning requirements. So, does anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you.
A quick question for Ben. Hey, Ben, what's the average square footage for R1 zoning? I mean, in Siloam? Ballpark.
Well, the lot size is a 10,000 square foot minimum for R1. Right. I don't have a figure of the average house size, but you're not talking about the 1,500 square foot starter homes. I mean, these are going to be, like the developer said, the larger the lot, the larger the house typically. So maybe 2,000, 2,500 square foot homes, something around there, I would guess. But I don't have that figure exact. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Homeyer.
Yes, Ron Homeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive. One additional point that I wanted to add to all the points Justin made on drainage is, in addition to the multiple large culverts that we're proposing, the ditch is proposed to be 6 foot deep, and that will start at the property line. So even though the houses are going to be higher, the water will be dropping 6 feet into the ditch. So as far as potential backup onto the neighboring property to the east, it should be minimal, just because of the fact it's going to be dropping into a ditch rather than having to just slowly work into a deeper ditch.
Ron, while you're thinking, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
You're familiar with Walnut Woods
Yes.
area. Are the ditches gonna be similar to that drainage ditch that goes through off of Cherry Whitlock?
One that's parallel to Sherry Whitlock.
Yes. The one that goes,
Probably similar. It'll be similar. It'll be deeper, but it'll be similar.
okay.
Nice comparison. I'm glad you brought that up. And as far as the other things, all of the proposed drainage and easements for the ditch and the culverts and all that is in compliance with the city's drainage manual, which is per code. So, I mean, we're going out of our way to try and meet and comply with all the requirements. The road improvements, that's a major arterial on the master street plan, I believe. So we're going to probably add as much pavement as they have there now almost by the time we get done across the frontage. Now, that doesn't help the intersection, doesn't help either side, but it's across the frontage, we're going to be adding close to the same amount that's already there for both directions. So the ability to have room to turn in and out of the subdivision will be greatly enhanced by this road widening across the frontage. And that's really about all I had. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of Ron?
Ron, do you have a rough idea of the amount of flow that will be cut out from the north to the south coming down Oakcrest with that new ditch?
Same amount, essentially. The same flow rate will be discharged from that detention basin in the southwest corner. So even if we slightly move the high point one way or the other, it's not going to make a difference on what actually still runs to the ditch, in the ditch going west.
So the flooding is happening now. So with the new development, does that help avoid more flooding in the future, or so does it help or not help?
I can't help what you see on the screen here. I mean, it is what it is. It's just a severely undersized drainage ditch with severely undersized culverts. We're making sure that what we put in on our side of the fence does not make it any worse, and it will adequately carry not only the 10-year storm, but a 100-year storm without overtopping any of those roadways.
All right, thank you.
Along that same school of thought, can you address Mr. Miller's comment of houses being higher and shedding water off towards him?
I'm going to do the best I can. That's a really flat area out there, so I'm not going to swear 100% that it's all going to continue to go west after these lots are built. But the backyards are going to be draining from the north and from the south into this ditch. So the area at the property line will be as dropping down as you come to the west from the fence line. And then, of course, it goes back up to the house elevation. So that I haven't done a full analysis, but I know from 15 years ago, my recollection is that it did not back up or make it any worse on the property to the east. We are collecting it at the current lowest elevation along that fence line. So, I mean, without improvements on their property, I can't definitively say that it won't do anything, but it's highly unlikely it's going to back water up on them.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions for staff?
I have a question for Justin. So Justin, for the intersection, is there any chance to improve if there is a construction, you're going to have trucks going back and forth. So to address the safety concerns, does the city have a plan to improve or not really?
It is on our long-year plan. Like I mentioned in 2024, that area it has been an issue over the years, because if you look at the city limits line, it runs down the middle of Oakcrest, the majority of that way. There's a couple of exceptions to that. So there's always been, so basically that intersection's half in the county, and half in the city. So that's kind of one of the reasons this has historically been an issue, is because, it's hard to get everybody on the same page, and the city wants the county to do things, or the vice versa kind of deal. So at this point, without the board, requiring something sooner, the plan would be to address it in 2024 with the Public Works Capital Improvement Budget. And I will mention that as far as construction traffic goes, going out east over to Higo Street is actually a much flatter area. I know that there was comments about that, but it doesn't have the steep drop off. So I would recommend any trucks to go that way, actually, because and then you can go down Higo Street. It's a wider road as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm advised that I have 2 citizens that I will allow to comment. I saw this young lady over here, so I will invite her up to give her name and address, and then, sir, I will recognize you next, and then we will close the citizens' comments. Ma'am, please state your name and your address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes after that.
Well, excuse me, Wanda West, 22551 Westwood. I'm wondering about the ditch, if that's just an open ditch, what will keep it from eroding quickly and mud being put wherever it is that it comes out at. And the ditches along Oak Crest already flow very high, so just whether those ditches are going to be flowing higher. So I don't have a comment, just a question.
Do you have anything else? You still have 2 minutes and 30.
Well, I do have another question. There's a lot of pipes that have been on that property for years, and I just want to be assured that they're not using those same pipes that have been there for probably 20 years and are broken. These are large cement, I don't know if pipes are the right word, culverts.
I would surmise they're probably not using those old culverts. All right. Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Sir, I see you back there behind the reporter. Please state your name and address for the record.
Dylan Lee. I live at 22530 Meadow Street, which is part of this subdivision here. Now that we've kind of heard everything here, we've mentioned talking construction coming through on HICO. Well, if we look at Benton County's actual integrative road map, that part of HICO that they would enter on is actually considered a loss. That hill that it comes down, so it's already considered a loss by the county. And we want to continue to have construction equipment come through on that side because it's too tight on Don Hill. So even if you did start developing the land and you had all the construction and said someone in this subdivision wanted to have an out, it's a no outlet subdivision. We have to go to Oakview, or we have to go to Oak Crest, I'm sorry, because Meadow Street isn't complete. Meadow Street, I believe, was initially supposed to connect to HICO, and that never happened. So it's a no outlet subdivision. We're stuck. And if we do have all this construction equipment and the roads get worse, we already have the problem with the flooding. We're going to add more potholes to it. That's basically all I got. But until we get some more answers and I think a better design, I think we should table this because it shouldn't go any further in its current status with 58 houses on here with what they're trying to pull. So, thank you.
Okay, that'll complete our comments. I remind you that it is the Planning Commission's to approve or disapprove. It will go before the board. The Board of Directors will have the final approval on this. With that, are any other questions from the commissioners?
So this is a comment. So the Planning and Zoning Commission look at the code, and if the proposal meets the code, so we don't have the authority to say to the city that we need to fix the intersection. So I would recommend that if you are interested in improving the intersection, go to the board, and they can make the call to bring the proposal sooner. So that's one comment. And also R1 zoning, I mean, that's a bigger zoning in Siloam. So I wanted to comment on that part because it's bigger than on the average sizes in Siloam.
Thank you, Ted. Any other comments?
And to piggyback on Ted's comment, you know, these lots are 2,000 feet above minimum. So, you know, by the letter of the law, you know, as a planning commission, we can't really tell the developer, you need to do something different because he's operating within the confines of the code as it is. So that's just a comment as well.
Anything else? No, sir. Comments from the audience. Time is over. I'm sorry. Any other comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve preliminary plat 2103.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes. Motion is approved. This will go to the Board of Directors on July the 6th. And I would encourage the residents in that area to attend that meeting. Next item on our agenda is staff update. Preliminary plat PP 21-02 Bellevue Estates, Ben Rhodes.
Let's give me a minute to get that PowerPoint up. Okay, so before you is a staff update. Should I wait for them to?
Yeah, just hold on just a minute, Ben, until we get settled down, then you can come on. Wait till they exit out. Okay, Ben, go for it.
All right, let's start over again. It'll be real quick here, but this is a staff update. So this is not something for you to vote on tonight, but I wanted to keep the commission informed as to why this isn't on your regular agenda. As you recalled, the commission voted to table this Bellevue Estates project to, it was at the May meeting to today's meeting. So last month, staff received a final proposal. However, this triggered the applicant's desire to increase the total number of lots to help offset the capital needed to address some of the drainage issues, which was the original reason why you were tabling it. So staff also needs time to kind of verify that if their proposed drainage solution will work. Because it's been over 3 months since the original neighbors were notified on the project, and also because the proposed housing density is going to be different than what was originally shown in the notice, staff has pulled this from the agenda. And the applicant understands that, and what they're going to do is they'll redo the notice, and we'll hopefully get onto the July Planning Commission with the other submittals that got turned in for the July review. So with that, we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for the commissioners? With that, we'll go to the next item on the agenda.
All right, this is just the monthly update as usual for the comp plan. I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions on the monthly comprehensive plan update?
The public meeting, I believe that will be in the community building. That's last I heard. So if different, it'll be announced differently, but I think that's what they were wanting to do. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ben, next item, board approved permits.
Yes, so thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Commission. So we're transitioning now onto the agenda of the board and staff approved permits. For the items going directly to the city board, this is an annexation of the Rock Hill property that you reviewed last month. As you may recall, you recommended a condition that the applicant annex this property into the city and zone it as I-1 to match the approved significant development permit. This request is now fulfilled with the condition. And so this annexation will go before the board of directors next week. That's on the June 15th meeting. And here you just see the area that would be annexed in. That's consisting of lot 2 of the Beehive addition. And then finally, here's the site view of showing the area that will be annexed in, zoned. Again, that is the I-1 zoning industrial. With that, we're available for any questions.
Would be your pleasure, commissioners. Okay, Ben, next item.
Okay, again, just moving forward, we have another annexation. This one's a little bit different in that there's 2 zones that we're requesting. This is at the 2300 block of Rains Road. This is just south of the water treatment plant. The request involves a property owned by City of Siloam Springs as well as another property owner. So the city owns these 2 smaller parcels here, which I'm showing there. That will be the GI. And then the remainder will be A1. Ag zoning. And so here's the site plan of what's being annexed in. And lastly, the property as it appears here. That's roughly showing the city property, and then to the left would be the other part that's going to go to the A1 zoning. So any questions on this?
Ben, are you aware if the city has any plans for that property?
Not anything solid at this time. It may be a potential future park or some other auxiliary use for the treatment plant, but we don't have anything solid that I can report right now.
Is the current landowner requesting the A1, or is that just?
The city has actually approached the other owner, and he was agreeable to it. The Burketts, yeah.
Ben?
Yeah.
Again, this is not going to be anything official, so don't hold me to it, but at least one of the things that's being talked about is that there is going to be a trail put in from the city to the new kayak park, and this would possibly be kind of the head of the trail on the city end, or at least a jumping off point where there would be some parking and access to that trail, and then maybe some park type development around it. Again, that's not finalized, but that's at least one possibility that's being discussed.
Well, that would be great.
Any other comments? Okay, staff approved permits.
Yes, so moving on to staff approved permits. I'll present all 3 and then open up for questions at the end. You'll recall that you're looking at a site at 1803 Don Hill Road for a rezone that happened in April. That was for Jeff Stewart. This is the follow-up lot split that's occurring on the same property, and this already went to the board for easements on June 1st. But we're holding off on approval of that until the related rezoning is confirmed and approved by the board. And here you see the survey for consideration, pretty straightforward, with the lot 4 being split off to the east, and then the remainder for 3. There may be a potential to split this again to create another lot. I guess it'd be a lot 5. But that's that would require a final plat, and they didn't want to do that quite yet. So that could come in the future, or could not. We don't know. And then moving on, we have another lot split here. This is we also went to the board June 1, 400 block of Davidson Road. This is on the east side of Country Club Road, but west of 59. And it does come off of a Cozy Corner Road, if you guys are familiar where that is. Essentially what they're doing is just splitting that off to create a new lot up here. There'll be an access easement that will kind of come in off of Cozy Corner for that future lot. And then the last one I have is a lot line adjustment. This is at the Seven Brew property, which I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with where that is. The aerial is old, but Seven Brew is pretty much right there. But anyway, what they're proposing is to shift this property line over here. The former line was here, and shifting that back west so that the Seven Brew will have more of a smaller, concise lot just for its one development. And that will open up a much larger lot for a potential future development here. As you know, that the Kenny's Auto is no longer in business there, so that opens that up, that hard corner for a potential new project. And with that, that closes out my my presentation. I'm welcome to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Commissioners, do you have any questions of Ben? Personally, I'm glad to see that lot line moved over. Okay, with no comments or anything, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.